transformation, but it was not very clear on how to do that. Always when you thinking about this transformation, you very soon start with technical issues. You think about the different tools, you think about the different platforms that you could implement, and this is always the first or the most obvious discussion that you have internally. But then soon after, you realize this is just the one side of the whole project. It's furthermore an organizational change. It has to do with the change of the culture. Employees will get used to the digital new age. They have to get adapted with their processes. They were analog and become now digital. So it's all around this transformation, and you have to put in wide angles for making it a success in the end. And for us, it was very obvious that on a paper-based process management, you need to get rid of paper. This is the first initial step. Without getting rid of paper, you cannot digitalize and cannot go into digital processes. So this was very key, and one of the first steps to get rid of the paper, to do the initial scanning for our 2 million actively managed papers, and also making sure that when a physical mail is coming in, that they get digitalized as well, which is the starting point most of the time for a process taking place. So one of the key elements was just to make the realization that it's not only a technical change, but this is an important technical change, but it's just one side of the whole digital project.
Okay, and you spoke about company culture. How did it translate really in terms of governance of this whole project?
Yes, as I said, at first it was just a discussion about the technical issues. And I started as a head of a department for projects in the digital age. And we soon realized that this is just not enough, because the discussions go a little bit higher than just about the technical issues. So very fast in the organization, I was talking a lot to the CEO, because a lot of topics are just company concern, not only technical. So the evolutionary process for us was relevant to create the new function as a chief digital officer that is reporting directly to the CEO, that is pushing and driving the whole transformation process, which is very important. Without having a person, the CEO, that is driving this process, it's probably failing. So for us, it was an evolutionary process, creating this role as Chief Digital Officer, and I believe this is really a very good idea to do that in such a huge digital transformation situation.
Yes, because the digital transformation was pushed by elements from the outside, I would say, or from also the top line and everything. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, sure. We realized that we run into an efficiency problem. Whenever you are working in a mass market, and in terms of property management, we are talking about the mass market because we are handling 50,000 objects almost. And if you're doing every single process step on a manual base and on paper, you're not very efficient, and you're too expensive, and your competitors that are also working on the digital transformation are just way ahead. So we realized we need to do something, and we need to get rid of the paper. And in order to do that, we need to digitalize and create new automated processes that are more cost effective. And of course, it was also very important that we can deliver the demands from our customer. They realized on a digital age, they would like to get real-time data. They realized they would like to have new interfaces to work with data on their system. They would like to have new reports. So that needs for us to be just ready to get everything in place in order to meet this demand.
Okay, we touched a bit, and maybe we can go deeper, Martin, about the CDO, because you are the CDO. So can you tell us a bit more what you wanted to achieve with this role and how it plays into the project?
Yes. For the whole digitalization process, you need to have a specific role that is taking care of just everything. Because it's a new business, nothing has been in place so far, so you need to have a role, a specific role that takes care of just everything. It's the technical deep dive, it's the organizational part, it's the communication part, taking all the employees on this journey. So this is very important for us to have a specific role taking care of that and being the spokesman for this digital transformation. And with this role, of course, we would like to gain efficiency, but this is just the first step. For digital transformation, it's about new products, it's about interacting with platforms, it's creating an ecosystem, and of course, coming up with new business models, generating new income streams from digital business. And this is only possible if you have a very structured, clear business strategy, and this has to be in one place, which is organized through the whole company.
Thank you, Martin. So let's now go deeper about the solution and how your two teams worked on a solution, and how the project was tackled, and what best practices you have for these kind of projects.
Mm-hmm. Well, at the beginning, you have no idea how to do that. It's all new, and it's very important to get a clear view on how the big picture would look like in the end. And we're talking about the future of 5 to 7 years maybe. When you start at phase number 1, you still need to have in mind, how does my result look like in the end, and how does it come all together? It's like a big puzzle, and you start with just the first ankles, and you start generating these pieces and bits together to make it the big picture. And at the beginning, you have to gain a lot of knowledge. You have to get aware of how your system works at the moment and what you have to do to achieve your goals for the big picture. So the initial phase took, I would say, almost a year to just getting clear what we really want and what we need and how this path would look like. And one of these paths was also to come up with the right partner that can support us. Which brings me to Roland.
Yeah, to Roland,
yeah. Yeah, as we were involved before we started to implement any pieces of the solution, we spoke with Verit about the IT strategy and the architecture of the whole platform, because you probably are aware that a lot of companies have quite a lot of different applications already in the house. So the goal is to combine them all together to really a proper platform where you can use then your new solution. So it's really important to have a proper architecture. From our side, it's important to have clear strategy, how you would like to implement really then the processes. And we recommend really to have a specific system for each functional requirement, especially in the archiving area and then the business process execution. So after defining this architecture, we discussed with Verit also how we would like to achieve then the end result of the whole digitalization platform. Yeah, you have to be aware you cannot implement everything at the beginning, because that's quite a huge project. So, and you have to start small with the small part of the whole solution. Also, the organization has to learn how to use then the new platform and how to work with the digital process. Because so far, as you have heard from Martin, they were working really on a paper-based process, which is then quite different to a digital process. And of course, then during the first phases of the project, the people and the organization learns how to work with the system, and they have a lot of new ideas how the solution can be improved and optimized for future needs and projects.
Yeah, and I think, Martin, you had also some requirements based on the way your ecosystem is organized.
Yes, absolutely. It's always a matter of make or buy decision. I mean, there are great startups coming up also in the real estate business. It's hundreds of new companies coming up with good solutions. And for us, it's always important to realize, would we like to do something on our own and spend a lot of time and money there because maybe it's unique and nobody else could do that? Or is it something that is more commodity and it's a good idea to share a platform with competitors and then other companies that having the same problems and having a different company giving us a solution for that. So this ecosystem thought is very key in our strategy. We would like to have a property management platform that is elementary for our property managers. But then if there is a platform doing a good solution for a specific problem, we would like to implement it 100% into our platform. So this thought of ecosystem is very key for our whole strategy.
Okay, so let's go now into the actual solution and see how it was deployed first. Maybe we can start in terms of organization.
Yes. This is something very key to us that we know, as I said, what is the big picture? What is our strategy? How can we go from phase number 1 to phase, let's say, number 10? The realization of a new role of a chief digital officer is very important. And for us, it's also very important that we come up with solutions that are for our employees because they're working with it all the time and they need to feel comfortable, they need to be happy with it, and it needs to solve a lot of problems for them to make their way easier in the daily business. And it's also about the communication, that they know exactly what's going on, what are the past steps, what are the next steps, and that we have also a synchronized process that everybody knows and is aligned what's going on.
Okay, and then maybe now that the solution is operating, what value does it bring to both the business and the IT teams?
Well, we have a lot of different core processes. And one of the first processes that we've done with Elka and is now already in production is the input channel. So we're receiving a lot of incoming mails still physically, and we need to get them digitized so we can have a PDF and working with that. So one of the biggest benefits is that this physical mail will get scanned. We do some sort of a triage. That means not all of the documents that are coming in need to be digitized, but those documents that are in need of digitalization, we do that with an external partner that is doing that on a daily basis. And then we need to make sure that this letter, which is addressed to a person, comes digitally to the correct person or the team, or maybe also the regional office, depending on what it is and who is addressed. And then this is most of the time the starting point of a process that is taking place further digital. So the value for the property manager is that he receives everything from an external source in one place. As I said before, we are eager to create a property management platform where Bonita is in the background taking care of all these tasks. And the property manager has everything in one place. He sees exactly which deadlines are due for which documents or which tasks, and it's everything structured for him and also for people that are working with the property manager to support. So the goal is to get more transparency, more quality, and also an efficient way of working on the processes. And in terms of IT, it is very important that we have a streamlined IT architecture. We need to reduce the complexity of single interfaces. In the past, there were hundreds of interfaces between programs and between tools and platforms, and this is almost not to be handled in this digital world with processes. So the reduction of complexity is one of the key solutions that we are aiming for, that we have one structured system that have adapters to different platforms. And this is one of the key important things that we are aiming for.
Okay.
In this example, maybe when we are talking as an example of a termination letter coming in through mail, then it goes through all the processes, and this letter of termination is the starting point of the process termination of a client, of a tenant. And this is then the phase number one or task number one, and all the further tasks are then managed in Bonita, and this is important that we have all in one platform.
Okay. And Roland, maybe you can tell us a bit more about how all of this is working together technically.
Yeah, as Martin mentioned, also it's really important to have proper interfaces for each application or service which is used in this whole process. Therefore, we implemented a service-oriented architecture, which is based on our ELGA backbone framework, which have a clear focus on using existing services where we are able to use them, because some applications don't have right now proper services which are available for such a process. There we implemented additional adapters for using those applications as a service, and if there is a replacement of those applications, we can easily replace the adapter and then adapt directly those services. And from the application side, nothing has to be changed. So that's really the focus, to have a clear, proper architecture which can be used and involved in the future. Also, what we have seen, the digitalization of paper was quite a big task during this project. Right now, we have about 75,000 dossiers in the platform, and more or less 500,000 documents which are managed from the system. They are stored in the archive system, and Bonita is taking care of the processes. Right now, what is being used is this incoming mail process, what Martin was speaking about, and over all these different locations. As you can imagine, now with the digital process, you can easily switch the process from one location to another, which was with the paper-based process quite inefficient, and this helps very a lot now in the daily business.
Okay, and you spoke about a platform. Martin and Roland, both of you mentioned this term, and how do you think this platform approach supports really the digital transformation
So as you know, Bonita has quite a lot of functionality and different benefits for helping you in the digital transformation and in those processes. Our approach was really to use Bonita as a service platform to execute all the tasks, all the processes there. And on the application side, so user interface, we have our own framework which we use to proper integrate the archive system with the process platform. So there we have then the integration, and so people can easily work with the process and the papers and collaborate on each task. Also in a team, because all the people which are taking care of those real estates, they're working in teams together, and so they can share tasks between team members and assign it to a team member and work on that. So that means at the end we have really an end-to-end business process which is covered with this platform. Of course, there's a continuous improvement and optimization which is going on and also will go on in the next months and years for sure, to be at the end then more efficient on the daily basis.
Okay, so yes, you spoke about this continuous improvement. This is something that you do in collaboration with Verit, right?
Yes, of course, from our side, we help them to bring up new ideas, new solution, new ideas how to implement things, and of course, from the process side, where it brings up their new ideas how the process can be improved.
So and Martin, the story doesn't stop with the first process, right? What's the next step to this project?
Yes, this is just the beginning. This is phase number 1. This is our homework in order to come to the fun part. And the fun part is that we would like to come up with this very process management platform. The first initial steps were done. The first steps is to bring in all the information coming through physical mail. And it's not stopping there. Then the process for the property managers start. There are checklists, there are different things they have to do in order to perform their processes. And our goal is to bring everything together, our own processes, and also integrate the third-party platforms and tools in our platform management situation, because then everybody knows that is working on a task when is it due, when do we have to do the next step, and everybody knows exactly what is going on, and there is no missing parts in our processes. So third-party platforms is very important, and of course, then we have a structured task management system. When we are talking about 9 different branches doing actually the same work, but in different locations and with different leadership. So sometimes it just happens that the process looks a little bit or slightly different in terms of the regional offices. And what we need to achieve is that we come up with a structured process and task management, that every process in Switzerland is exactly the same. Every employee is working the same way on the same processes that are done every day. And in the end, we're looking forward to having an ecosystem where we can integrate different partners. And if there is a new startup coming up maybe next year with a great solution, we would be able to implement their ideas as well, so we can make the best benefit out of it. And this is our goal, and I would say it takes some years to go. But the beginning was done, and we're very happy that now it works. Every employee is now working digitally, and especially in a Corona time like this, it's so important that our employees can work from home and they have access to all their dossiers, that they have access to the incoming mail. And so it helps us a lot to get organized during these hard times.
And really benefit from an extensible platform in all terms, extensible place, extensible to systems. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We will now have a conclusion and summarize best practices and takeaways. Before we go to the conclusion, I remind our audience that if you want to ask a question, you can use the panel that is in your interface. So you can write the question and I will read it for our speakers just after our takeaways. So Martin, let's conclude and summarize for our audience the key takeaways that you got from the project so far.
Yeah, these were our learnings from the last 2 or 3 years. And we realized that it is so important that the top management and especially the CEO pushes this project. And every employee knows that this is one of the key projects for the future success. And alongside with that, to create a special role, in my case as a chief digital officer, taking care of the whole digital transformation, and not only the technical part, is very key to make the whole project success. And what we've also learned at the beginning is that we need to have a clear view on the big picture. And when you know exactly how it should look like, then you can start with phase number 1. But all those phases that you're doing has to benefit the big picture. Of course, when you're working on something and you realize there might be a slight difference and it makes sense to adapt this strategy, this is always possible. But you should be aware of the big picture before you start. And then plan iterations, as Roland also was telling before. Do the agile approach. Start small, do little pieces, little releases, do an incremental change of the platform. So it's not a huge release and you work for 3 years and then you have a big release. Start small, do the first initial phase, and then do process after process, and so enlarge the whole system. This is definitely the right approach in such a big project. And it's also very important that the change management becomes a critical role inside the company. It's not only technical, it's a lot about culture, it's processes in the whole organization that is different. So you need to have an established change management system to communicate, to take all the employees with you on this journey, because without the employees accepting it, it won't be a success. And the last one is one of the most important parts. Be sure who to choose as a partner, because it's not just one project and it's done in half a year. This is almost like a marriage. You do this system with a partner and you need to be sure at the beginning that this partner can hold up these expectations in terms of technical issues, in terms of communication, in terms of size. You would like to have a suitable partner that takes this whole journey with you and supports you in all these manners that you need to perform alongside this journey.
Thank you, Martin. I already have, so let's move to questions because I think they are a good transition. We have already some questions here. Martin, when you look back, what would you do differently?
Actually, not so much. I think we've done it quite well. We took enough time to make a proper plan. And even though that it meant that we had to postpone some of the phases, maybe a month or 2 months or a quarter or so, I believe that we've handled it quite well. And I wouldn't change so much. I just realized that it turned out well, and taking enough time is certainly important, but I wouldn't change it because I think we did it quite well.
Okay, Roland, maybe on your side, anything that you would do differently, or you were also comfortable with the way everything was happening?
In general, what I agree to Martin. What you have to know, it's always difficult if you start new with a new solution and no one has really worked with it so far. It's quite difficult for them to understand how this new system is working. So that's always a little bit a challenge at the beginning. How do you start with the business that they are familiar with the solution, and they can also give already some good input in the beginning of the project. But it's also really important that you, as a company which supports this digitalization, yeah, that you have a close collaboration really with the business side as well as also with the IT side, really to work close together. And I think that that was the case with Development.
Okay, and I have a question more on the resistance to change. So how many employees resisting going digital, and how did you convince them to do it? Did you have resistance or not really?
Well, there is always a little bit of resistance. And it's funny. It's not about the age. There are older people that are not resilient at all, and there are young 20-year-old employees that are resilient totally, and they oppose to it. So I think it's more about the personal approach of every employee, how they are handling digitalization also in their private life. And it's in our case, we are not having so much opposition. Everybody knows that we have to do that. Everybody knows that it will become better. Sometimes, of course, people wish that we were already there, so 1 or 2 years later, because now we're working on it. It's hard for everybody to change, and there is extra work for everybody. So sometimes people wish that we were a little bit further down the road. But in general, there is a big understanding, and almost everybody is looking forward to this move. But definitely, if there is opposition, you have to explain why you're doing something, why it's important, and sometimes you need to take the fear away from the employees. And with a good communication, most of the time you're very lucky, and you bring everybody aligned on the project.
Okay. So I have a question about the frequency, well, the changes, and do you consider that changes is there is a loop in the life cycle of changes? And I think we touched it a bit with iteration and everything, and the need for smaller steps iterating.
Yes, I mean, we have different iterations. Of course, we have a roadmap, what we would like to do in the future. So that this is something that we can plan in terms of releases. So we have specific projects where we have a special focus on it, and we try to do that on a regular basis, on an agile approach. And then, of course, there are demands from customers and demands from our employees. And this is a continuously improvement part that we need to take care of, that we can implement good ideas from the employees, that they all also know that they are relevant when they experience something that is not perfect in their mind, that we can work something out and to create new features. And so we have the roadmap that we're implementing, but also continuously improving the system which we have in smaller releases.
Okay, so like a product, yeah. So I have a question more in terms of financial effort. The question is the following: in your opinion, what financial effort, so percentage of turnover, and in terms of resources, increased percentage in resources dedicated to digitization that you must invest in this digital transformation? I think there's two questions in one. So it's more, does it have an impact on the turnover in your team and the resource that you need after and before digitization? Maybe that's
Yeah, we certainly see a shift going on from the business itself towards digitalization, skilled person working in our department. So when we used to have maybe 100 people for the same amount, then we look forward that the employees are more efficient with the new tools. And in order to do that, we need employees that are working on the digital solution. So we see a little shift in going towards the skills of IT and project management and digitalization. But in the end, there is no need to reduce the amount of employees working on the business side, because we would like to expand our business, to get new business. So that just means that people are getting more efficient, so they can do more work in the same amount of time. But there is definitely a shifting towards IT and digitalization. And of course, more people means it costs money. And this is always something that you have to consider. But in terms of a big digital transformation, it's a plan that you're doing, a return on invest, that usually takes care, it depends on how deep you do that, from at least 5 to 7 years. And if you consider that, it depends on your integration and how many people are skilled workers working in your company already. How much can you do on your side, and where do you need the support from a company like Elka, for example, that is supporting you. So in the end, it's a return on invest calculation that is relevant also for the top management in order to make the right decisions.
And maybe some other point here is, of course, you want business improvement, so you probably already see a better customer service and everything. But do you think, or do you already see some new business models or new business possibilities from this digitization?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, at the moment we're eager to be more efficient, but this is not very much a new business model. It's the same work, just digitalized. But this is the base on how we can improve or go towards new business that is not existing at the moment. And of course, we are looking into new business models where we can benefit from this homework that we are doing at the moment. I cannot talk too much at the moment, but there are some serious thoughts how we can do that in the future. Because we also see in the mass market, where we are in property management, it gets more and more commodity market. And in a commodity market, you do not gain a lot of percentage and margin. So of course, we are looking into new business models where we can complement these actions and take benefit of this platform. And maybe we can make this platform available for other sources and go in a different digital age where we are performing a service for somebody else, which was not the case before, because we were just focusing on our own stuff. And when we're able to do that on our platform, we can think about releasing that to different companies, maybe. So these are a lot of thoughts that we're already taking, but now we are first need to have the property management platform in place that is working perfectly, and then we go to the next level. It's phase number 20, the business models. But we have number 1.
Yeah, this has been a very nice conclusion, but I have another little question that I will take, which is how do you handle other communication channels like email, WhatsApp? Are they also connected to the Bonita platform?
Yes, this is absolutely the goal. At the moment, we have so many different channels. And most of the time, if a tenant, for example, doesn't get a receipt or an answer within 10 minutes, then they just take the next level of communication. So they are calling up, they write an email, maybe they send a message on WhatsApp. So we have for the same situation 3 different input channels. And this is something that we are really keen on, to have a structured way of input channel. So wherever the input comes, it will flow directly to the task management and Bonita in the background, where can handle that. So in the end, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It needs to be structured, and it needs to go directly into the task management system.
A little question that is speaking about case management versus BPM. So I don't know if it's more Roland that wants to answer this, or when someone asks and says, when we start modeling from the current situation, isn't it case management instead of BPM? I think it really, I mean, I'll start answering this, but it really depends on your process. So if you have what we call the structured process, where you know each of the steps, like for example, the termination, it's always happening in the same way. So that's a structured process, then it's BPM. When there is a decision that needs to be made at some point of the process, and when the decision will trigger a different process, then it's case management. But within Bonita, the good thing is that you can handle both structured or unstructured. I don't know if Roland or Martin, do you implement unstructured already, or for the moment you just implement structured processes?
The moment is just structured.
Okay.
Maybe Roland can tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, right now there's only an approach to have structured processes. But of course, with the solution they have, they can still collaborate with each other, so over the platform. But it's not really a case management solution yet.
But it could be. I mean, the platform has the capacity, right? So
exactly.
It depends how you address
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was the last question that I got. So I thank you very much for your time and your sharing your story. And maybe we can speak in a year to see where you are and how you gain from this project. I wish you a very good day. And if you have other questions for our audience, I mean, from the audience to Martin or Roland, feel free to reach out to us. We can contact them for you, and they will be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.